Firefly is here, and she is going to be amazing, insane, and you can see her booby crack. I'm sorry, that was really cringe, but you definitely can when she transforms. Anyways, that's besides the point. Firefly is absolutely going to destroy the meta. She's going to follow the same path as Danny and Jingliu did and carry the meta on upwards. I think from this patch, we're going to see some people move down the tier list, and I think we're going to have a new baseline for what we should expect for our DPS in Honkai Star Rail. We're going to talk about that in today's video, but first, go ahead and hit that subscribe button, gamers, because we are doing a giveaway for Firefly in our Discord. The way to enter that, well, I'm going to make you wait till the end of the video for that. So, anyways, gamers, let's go ahead and talk about now why I think Firefly is going to be so busted OP and absolutely break the meta. Now, when I talk about breaking the meta, I don't mean breaking the meta in terms of what Acheron can do, because I think Acheron herself is just game changer overall, right? I think she sets the bar at the top level, right? A lot of people say, oh, we shouldn't rate Acheron. That shouldn't be where the bar's at. I think that's where the top bar is. I think if we're trying to sell a top tier DPS, that's where the bar should be. I think the baseline for what DPS should perform as is where Jingliu and Danny is at. So where do I think that she stands? I think that Firefly is actually going to be not as good as Acheron, but I do think she is going to be better than both Jingliu and Danny, because let's be honest, guys, she does basically what Jingliu can do, but a little bit better in terms of damage and putting typings on enemies so you're not having to face up. She just helps out a lot more. I think it's an enhanced version of Jingliu. I think this is the power creep to Jingliu we've been waiting for. And obviously, if she's getting power crept, then Danny's kind of getting power crept as well, because they're kind of nestled in the same type of boat together, both Jingliu and Danny Boy. So I think they're going to move down one on the tier list. I think she's going to move to tier 0.5 now, and that's going to be the new baseline for DPS. Why do I think this though, right? Because I think whenever we get a new destruction character added into the game, and this has never failed, not once, surely, they have always broken the meta. I think we can always rely on destruction type characters to absolutely blast past the meta and blast through it and pave new paths that we have never seen before in the game. Now, if we take other paths, right? Year Edition, still kind of in the dumps, I'm not gonna lie. Maybe Jay changed that, maybe she doesn't. But the other DPS classes have not had a good track record of actually bringing up the whole baseline of where we should be looking at characters at now. Let's take Boot Hill, for example, right? Boot Hill is great, but only when an enemy is broken. He's only good in those situations. He hits massive damage there. What if we get an enemy in the game that we cannot break? That is going to cause some major issues. Now, with someone like Firefly, she's not having to solely rely on breaking the enemy. She gets damage from other sources. That's my whole point that I made with Boot Hill. Boot Hill's problem is that he cannot get damage outside of break. So once they implement enemies into the game, they can either A, have 5 toughness bars and it's going to take 10 years to break them down. He's not doing any damage in that time frame. And sure, he's doing massive damage when you get them broken. He's not doing damage before that. So that brings his average damage down quite a bit depending on the enemy. Someone like Firefly, right? Firefly, while she does have a lot of break effect, while she does play a lot of break effect, and while she does have stuff in her kit to maybe help her with super breaking S things, she can still get some pretty massive damage out on enemies that are not broken. I think she's a more well-rounded and versatile unit. Same thing with Zila, right? I think we can look at the whole Hunt class and really pick it apart here. Zila, what is Zila's requirement? Zila does great damage, but whenever you're able to kill enemies, because she gets extra turns when you're killing enemies. If you're not able to 1 to 2 turn kill enemies, Zila's damage potential just kind of goes down the drain. And you can fight me on that in the comment section down below. I do not think that Zila is even close to the meta anymore. And at this point, I honestly think that Jingyuan is more consistent than her. If you guys want to see a video on that, make sure you leave that in the comment section down below as well, because I have cooked something up on that. There's not really any point to release it right now because none of the characters are getting rerun right now. Let's take another Hunt character that we got. Topaz and Noombi, right? Topaz and Noombi, they can do good damage, but when they're on a follow-up team, they are really there to help support follow-up teams, right? They don't do much damage outside of running them on a follow-up team, because a lot of Noombi's attacks rely on you having follow-up characters, right? So she completely relies on that. Same thing can be said for Dr. Ratio. If you're not putting debuffs on the enemy, if you don't have substantial crit rate, you are not really doing much damage to the enemy. So if he's relying on you having a lot of debuffs on the enemy, a lot of the Hunt class relies on something, right? They rely on either 1 or 2 things to absolutely hit massive damage. Whereas the Destruction class, you kind of just chunk them in, throw some decent relics on them, and they just kind of go, right? Let's not even talk about the Year Edition class. That shit's in shambles. Hopefully, God, Jade changes things. I really hope she does. But that's one of the reasons why I think that Firefly is absolutely going to break the meta here, guys. But now I kind of want to touch on what the baseline should be, right? what should this new baseline for DPS that we have coming to the game should be now, right? Because I think that 1.0 is a bygone era, right? 2.0 is the new era, and there should definitely be some power creep in the game. There should be some differentiating factors, right? Especially with how fast they're releasing new characters, there is inevitably going to have to be power creep, right? Now, I have a problem with them releasing 2 new 5 stars every single patch, because this honestly just leads to the rerun banners kind of being pointless in a DPS sense, right? For the supports, they really don't get power crept as often, right? For the sustains, they don't get power crept as often, right? As far as sustainability, they're all able to sustain the team, but they do a little bit more and they kind of tack on more of that, right? Let's take Fushuan, for example. She's able to sustain the team just fine, right? She's fine dandy. She does a great job of sustaining. Same with Aventurine. Aventurine's not going to get killed either. He just does a little bit extra on top of what Fushuan can do, and that's what the power creep comes from with these preservation characters, or I guess I should say sustain characters in general. You really want the extra goodies that they can bring to the table. Same thing can be said with supports. You want the supports to do multiple things. You want them to either do damage and support the team, or you want them to buff and debuff enemies, or you want some absolutely massive buffs that you can apply to the whole team, right? That is where that niche sits at. But where does DPS sit at? DPS sits at damage. But damage can be broken up into multiple things, right? How much damage are they doing? How are you getting that damage? And how consistent is that damage, right? And I think that's where Firefly is going to sit at. I think that she brings a consistent level of damage, and I think that's what we should expect from our DPS and overall, right? I think we should expect a decent amount of damage, right? A baseline consistent amount of damage while buffing themselves so they're a little bit easier to build than some of your predecessors past, right? Let's be honest. Firefly is going to be much easier to build than someone like Zila. Same thing can be said for Acheron as well. Acheron's much easier to build and run with than someone like Zila, right? We're looking for characters now that play more into niches. Firefly being break type, Black Swan with dot teams, Re-Rise of follow-up teams again, guys. We are looking now into niches, but I think when we're categorizing these characters into niches, they need to be doing consistent levels of damage while buffing themselves and while playing off the rest of the team as well. Acheron's a great example of this. She plays off of how many other Inhility units you have in the game, and she buffs herself accordingly. Someone like Black Swan, she plays off of how much effect or hit rate she has, that buffs the rest of her stats. Someone like Firefly, that could potentially use your attack percentage and put that into break effect, which ultimately increases her multipliers even more. These are the things that we're looking for, right? We are now looking for characters that are giving us stats, and then those stats are affecting and multiplying other stats that we have while playing into those certain niches, because I feel like that's where the game's going, right? We can see with enemy types in the game right now, enemies are getting more complex, and there needs to be more enemy types to play into those niches, right? We shouldn't be able to just strong arm everything in the game using one team. I do believe that having multiple different enemy types and having multiple different niches and having to use multiple different teams really increases the longevity of the game, because it's going to require you to build more. It's going to require you to play more. It's going to require you to lab more, get more comfortable with different teams, build up different units. So that's why I think Pure Fiction was a great addition. Sure, a lot of people find it easy, right? Honestly, me as a free-to-play player, or my free-to-play account, does struggle with it a lot, because you have to have multiple different units built up to actually access it. And now with Apocryptic Shadow, whatever it's called, I'm sure they said something in the live stream about it. I'm not really going to touch on it too much. This is going to play more into that single damage type. So now you have to have a team that can play very AoE oriented, a team that can be very single target oriented, and then now a team that's very balanced, okay? So this is where I think the niches come into, because now when we get something like Apocryptic Shadow, whatever it's called, and then it buffs a certain type, you're obviously going to be wanting to play that type, right? When we have the Pure Fiction that buffs up playing dot characters, you want to be playing dot characters on that team to have the easiest time, and I think that's where the direction of the game's going. As far as how this should affect the baseline, though, because I just went off on a whole fucking tangent there. The baseline now should be, we have a character now that consistently does damage. The build itself is easier because we're feeding this stat that's inherently feeding this stat right here for absolutely free, and then also playing off the rest of the team in the different niches as well. But now for the moment you've been waiting for, guys, let's go ahead and talk about that Firefly giveaway. How do you enter it? First of all, subscribe to the channel. You've watched at this point in the video, or maybe you clicked the timestamp. You have to subscribe to the channel to enter the giveaway anyway, so go ahead and hit the subscribe button now. Secondly, guys, link to Discord down below. Join the Discord. You have to have a Discord account to do this. After you've done that, guys, you're going to head over to the giveaway tab, hit the little party popper, yippee, and that will enter you in for a chance to win. If you hit the party popper again, it'll ask you if you want to leave. That's how you know you're in. Just don't hit the leave button. Don't scam yourself, guys. Come on.
The giveaway ends today. So you have a couple of hours from the posting of this video to join the giveaway. If you join the Discord, the giveaway's no longer there. It says a winner. You're too late. Sorry about it. I've mentioned on every single video. Anyways, guys, giveaway ends today. Make sure you join the Discord. I will be streaming the winner of it. So if you do want to see who the winner is and you come in before 12 p.m. or 12:43 p.m. CST, then join us at twitch.tv/YouTube can't see me. It'll be a fun and enjoying time there. Anyways, guys, that's going to do it for today's video. Hopefully you enjoyed it. And yeah, I'll see you in the next one, gamers. Later. Bye-bye.